Hello there, everybody. Welcome into Pickup Sports Talk on the road. We're here in Florida. We've been here for a couple days for Thanksgiving. We apologize if you hear some noises. We are actually outside, so if you hear the trees rustling or the wind, we apologize, but there is real wildlife out here. There's a family of iguanas roaming around the lawns. Don't get alarmed if you see those. We've also seen some lizards. We just saw a snake. There's a heron roaming around, so don't be alarmed by the outdoors. I'm Spencer Stein.
And I'm Brandon Schiffman. We have a ton to get today about just mainly football. So, you want to get started with the NFL games?
Yeah, sure. Yesterday there were 3 great games. I tried to watch as much as I can while spending time with my family. First game, our Bears in Detroit. I was worried for a second there that we were going to give Detroit their first win. That was not what I wanted to do. But the Bears went in there and they got the win. What are your takeaways?
Honestly, my biggest takeaway just watching that game, Darnell Mooney is the star of our offense right now. Everything's been running through him, whether it's Fields or Dalton at quarterback. Everything's running through Mooney. I think he's a star, and he has such high potential with the volume of receptions he's getting.
Yeah, and this season we were worried about A-Rob's going to leave in the offseason. We got Mooney locked down for a couple of years. He's going to be Fields' #1 target.
Absolutely.
And I'm truly starting to think that the Bears forever have been a defensive-oriented team, even back to the 80s. I think going forward we can be an offensive team. I think with Mooney as our top receiver weapon, Montgomery's a great running back with Khalil Herbert as a complementary back, how you've seen the Cowboys do with Zeke and Pollard. I think they could be like that. Justin Fields coming into his own. They have Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham, who both had good games. I don't know how much Jimmy Graham has left in his career. However, Cole Kmet was great. If we could keep A-Rob or get a different receiver to come in there and be the second guy with Mooney and still fast guys like Goodwin coming in as the wide receiver 3, a deep threat, I think if they get a new coach, they could come in and do great. So I think this offseason, O-line, new coach. That's it. And 1 receiver left.
And think about how good our defense will be when everyone's back healthy. Guys that we have missing right now, Khalil Mack out for the year. Akeem Hicks has just been in and out of the lineup all year, mainly out.
I think they just
Eddie Jackson,
need to worry about locking them down and keeping them. Maybe get another corner. I think in the draft it's O-line and secondary. That's all we need to do. But I don't think we need the great defense to win. I truly think that they could be a top 10 offense if they get the right coach and bring all these young guys together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that the future is definitely bright. Speaking of a team that isn't that bright in the future aspect, it's the Lions. And one thing I tweeted during the game, if their offense should be any type of successful, they really need to keep DeAndre Swift healthy.
Yeah, he's the star of their offense.
Him and Hawkinson, but Hawkinson's not even on his level.
Hawkinson's an up-and-coming tight end, and I really think tight ends are becoming a crucial part of many NFL offenses. We saw Dalton Schultz do a ton yesterday for Dallas. But I think that Swift's the main guy. He could be a top 5 back. He could catch it. He could be a Kamara type of guy for that offense.
Absolutely.
But they're years away.
Yeah.
They're starting to build with the O-line a bit, who still look bad. They have no quarterback. They don't have any receiving weapons. It's just awful. They're 0-10-1 now. At least they'll have that tie to show, I guess. But nothing's going good for them.
The season wasn't a complete failure.
How many years do you think Dan Campbell could do this? I think they'll still keep him with no wins. He's that good. It's just sad. It's heartbreaking.
I think he's definitely a culture guy in the sense that, the Lions have been bad basically as long as we've been watching football, I'd say, for the most part. But Campbell seems to be the guy who's going to turn that around. So I think they're going to give him a little bit more time than your average coach. But yeah, I can't even begin to think about that because I don't want to have to think about this team just continuing to be bad. Because I really do like Dan Campbell. I think he's a great guy.
I don't know. I think he's a good coach. He's a good culture guy, but they're not going to win regardless of who the coach is.
Correct.
Maybe they'd have not even the tie without him. Let's move on to the next game. As I alluded to, Cowboys Raiders. The Raiders went in there and upset them. They jumped out to an early lead. The Cowboys forced overtime late. Raiders won 36-33 in overtime. I thought that this was the best game of the day.
Yeah,
it was the closest one. Cowboys were playing, though, without CeeDee Lamb and without Amari Cooper, so their top receiving weapons. Dak still went off. Cedric Wilson, Michael Gallup provided, as I said, the tight end Dalton Schultz. But they've lost 3 of 4 now in pretty bad fashion. Not great teams, too. So do you think they could contend at all? Think they're in the category?
I think the Cowboys, not necessarily historically, but obviously, have always been one of the most talented teams in the league, but they can really never put together. And as much as I want to see Dak and that team succeed, I don't know if they're quite there yet. I really do. I don't know what more they can bring in, maybe a little bit of a better defense, but they've got Micah Parsons, who seems to be one of the best defenders in the league. I think I can say that with confidence now. So I don't even know what they need anymore because they always seem one step away. And now, again, with an even improved defense, they're still one step away.
It's just their culture. I don't know why they can't win. It makes no sense to me, but they have a top offense in the league. It's that simple. They have CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. You saw these receivers that aren't as prominent, still have talent. They have Dalton Schultz. Zeke and Pollard, I think, is the best duo backfield in football.
It's definitely
and that's so arguable. Sure. I think Pollard is going to be the #1 back soon. I truly think he's up there in talent. I think if he was on a different situation where he was the number 1 back, like Detroit, he might be a
I think
top 10
that's the
back.
same with A.J. Dillon also.
Yeah,
with Aaron
definitely.
Jones. I think that
I
both
think
those
both of them.
situations
And
are
Tony
similar.
Pollard had a 100-yard kick return.
Yep.
Zeke's still great, though. It's not like Zeke's bad.
No.
That's a great tandem. I think Pollard needs to get out of there and get to a place where he can be the number 1 back. He can really
Get his
turn
money
the
in the offseason.
Definitely.
Get his money.
But they have Jack's looking great. I think everyone on their offense is fine. They even have a good O-line. It's the defense. The defense isn't horrible.
By no means.
But they can't win with it. It's not like you could point to one thing and say that's why they lost. Yesterday, I think you could point to the penalties.
Yep.
That one quarter had 4 penalties. That was all. What do you think of that call in overtime?
I didn't like it at all. I really thought that honestly just screwed over Dallas's
Yeah, and
chances.
if that wasn't called, they would have won the game. I
Yeah.
truly think they would have gotten the ball at the punt there. I did not think that was pass interference,
Mm-hmm.
but their defense has to improve. But I wouldn't say every game you could point to their defense and say that's what happened.
No,
it's
by
always
no
something.
means.
It's always something.
There's always an
different.
issue. Either Zeke had a fumble or two, Dak threw a couple too many interceptions, Trayvon Diggs led up 250 yards. Like, there's always something
Yeah,
going
and
on.
now let me give my hot take. This
Two.
division's not a lock. I'm a huge Eagles fan. I
Eagles
think
have
the
been
Eagles
great
are
this
great.
year.
I personally think that if they could go into that last game against Dallas in Philly with just one game back where a win gets them in, they're going to win that game.
Yeah.
The question is, can they get there? I think the Eagles can run the table. They have a pretty
Jalen
easy
Hurts is
schedule.
proving
Oh
everybody
yeah,
wrong right
they
now.
have the football team twice. They have the Jets and they have the Giants still on their
Yep.
schedule. I
It's
think they
easy.
could genuinely run the table. It's all about if the Cowboys really falter to that level. The Eagles are going to get a wild card spot. I think they could even compete for that divisional spot. I don't think any NFC East team's winning a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys, if they're the 4 seed, that means the 5 is either going to be Rams or Cardinals. They're not winning that game.
Correct.
Maybe at home against the Cardinals. I personally think when you compare them with the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Rams, the Cardinals.
They're really not in the same league as
no.
them. And they should be. They have all the
They
talent in the world.
definitely should be.
But you want to hear my hot take about
Yeah.
the Eagles related? I was thinking this before the season started. This is like an internal thing. I never wanted to say this out loud because for all I knew, he could have been out of the league by the end of the year. I thought Jalen Hurts had a slight chance for the MVP.
Oh yeah. No, I thought he was
He's
a
pro-
sleeper. I
yeah.
really liked him in fantasy too, but
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing with
He's
Hurts is
great.
that I don't know how great he is for the team. I mean, he
Yeah.
seems to do a lot of things on his own. He doesn't find the open guy. I still am a huge fan. I think
Yeah.
he definitely deserves to be a starter in the
Statistically, he's great.
Definitely.
It's more about what you see on the field.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move to the night game.
Yep.
Bills blew out the Saints. I thought this would be a blowout.
It was.
The Saints, I want to say their offense is so reliant on one guy, but let's be honest. Mark Ingram was out. Alvin Kamara was out. They
Michael
already
Thomas
lost
out
Jameis.
for the year.
Michael,
Jameis is out for
like,
the year.
there's nothing you could say except they're bad with this team. I don't see much of a future.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they have all those guys back, we'll see. I don't think they're making the playoffs. I just don't think they're good enough. The question is Josh Allen going to the Bills side? I mean, the Saints defense didn't have that many guys out.
Yeah.
Bills still just scored 31.
Yeah. Josh Allen's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. You can debate that all you want. Truth is, the talent's there. He's one of the best arms in football. He's a running threat. And even when him and Stephon Diggs aren't meshing, it's either Cole Beasley or
Emmanuel Sanders.
Emmanuel Sanders getting the ball. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and he's also hitting his tight ends now.
Yeah.
Dawson
Dawson Knox got 2 touchdowns last
Yeah,
time. He's getting everyone involved, except the running game. Zach Moss.
But
healthy
Zach Moss
scratch.
and Singletary were out last night. They started Matt Breida. We haven't seen that name in a while.
Yeah.
So I think the Bills, I don't necessarily put them up there in the contending category. I think Josh Allen is a top 10, top 5 quarterback. But the AFC's looking weak, man.
The
I
AFC's
think that it's going to be the Chiefs. I want to go into this debate real quick, even though we didn't talk about it too much. What do you think about the Patriots? Do you think they could compete?
Oh. See, this is a team before the season started I was so high on. And I've been getting higher on them, but I don't want to just let my bias get the best of me here because I was always kind of high on Mac Jones and how he'd fit in. I don't think they can necessarily compete for a Super Bowl, but definitely think they could play spoiler on some teams in the AFC that we're seeing as better than them going into the year.
I think they're going to beat the Titans this week. However,
Yeah.
after that, they have, I think, the Bills twice and the Colts. I think they're going to lose 2
a
out of
tough
3 of those
schedule.
games. I think this team's overrated.
I still think they're super
Let me
talented.
tell you why. Everyone thinks that the AFC, everyone thinks the Patriots are the favorites, or the Chiefs are going to go in and take it, or they're high on the Bills. I'm not high on the Bills. I do think the Chiefs are going to go in and take it, but with the
Ravens
Patriots,
also.
yeah, with the Ravens also, I love what Lamar's doing, but the Patriots, I just don't think can perform the playoffs. I trust Belichick. I love their defense. Best defense in football, if you ask me.
Yeah, 100%. As of right now.
I think
at
if
least.
they played the Chiefs in a game, the Chiefs would win.
Yeah, I agree. I think Mahomes has really stepped it up. They figured out all their problems. The one thing I don't like about that, and this is definitely a me personal thing, I don't like how Patrick Mahomes' family's taking to the social media about it. I'm not gonna really.
Specifically Jackson.
And his, I think, fiance or wife, Brittany. I just don't like what she's tweeting. I don't like how Jackson's throwing water on opposing fans. Like, I don't really think I have much room to talk on the matter just because I'm a fan watching from afar, and there's probably a reason for all that, but I just don't love what's going on
At least
there.
he's pretty humble. He's a good guy.
Of course, he's a great guy.
He's probably the face of football when Brady retires.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. Super Bowl update. I like whatever team's out of the NFC. I think is going to win. If the Chiefs are on fire, they're going to win.
Yeah.
So I think if the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl, they'll probably be the favorites. They'll be coming off 3 straight wins against good teams in the playoffs and be surging. But if they lose in a bad game, because we've seen them have a bad game every couple of weeks. If they have a bad game where they score 13 points and allow 40 against one of these teams, we see the Bills or Patriots or Ravens in the Super Bowl.
They're going to be all over that.
I can't see picking one of those teams over the Packers, the Bucks, or the Rams, even the Cardinals.
I think I agree. The NFC's stacked. Like, you look at it, some of the best offenses and defenses as combos. For example, the Packers have a top defense and offense. The Rams have top defense and offense. What was the last one you said? Sorry.
Cardinals?
Cardinals, top defense, offense. And even Tampa. I mean, Tampa's defense isn't great, but they're still, you know what I mean? So I don't think I can take a team that's so offense heavy, such as the Ravens or such as the Chiefs, or even the Bills, who are pretty much defense heavy, over a team that has the best of both worlds. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. Let's move on to college football. We've talked a lot about NFL. We're in Florida. We got to talk about some Florida football. Dan Mullen was fired this Sunday. Florida's football coach for a couple years. We saw what he did at Mississippi State. What do you think about the situation?
I just think his few years at Florida didn't quite live up to the hype he was bringing in coming out of Mississippi State. I think he was there for 3 years, and it ended in such a mess.
And Florida can recruit.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a recruitment issue. He's getting guys. He's not making them into talent. He's not proving talent. It's clearly a Dan Mullen issue. I think he could go elsewhere and coach.
Oh, yeah.
But he was great at Mississippi State. He didn't show that in Florida. They haven't been winning games. It was the right time to fire him, definitely. It's time to stop giving him a chance. The question is, who should come in? Everyone's talking about Dave Armada, Baylor's coach. I think Baylor's going to lock him in. I think he'll want to leave. I don't know. I think Baylor's going to lock him in. The number one target's going to be Lane Kiffin. I don't know if he's going to leave Ole Miss, though. Ole Miss is looking good. It's not like they're a bad program.
Correct.
I don't see
and
why
they're about to get Arch Manning. At least that's my hot take. They're about to get
And they're definitely not. I don't think they're bringing Jimbo away. If Jimbo goes anywhere to the LSU, I think they got to go for is Mario Cristobal. He's Oregon's coach. He was an assistant at Bama. He's heavy on the O-line. I think that could prove Florida to be a contender again because they have the talent. There's no lack
Florida
of
gets all the talent in the world. They in the last or 2 years ago, Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney, Kyle Trask,
and
they're fine.
But it's that they can't produce them into talent. They can't win football games. They've looked awful this year. Is the right move.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel we had to talk about that since we're in Florida. But the big storylines are the games this Saturday and the Heisman race. Heisman ballots go out on Monday. People are voting after these games. Who's the favorite, C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young? Or who would you vote for at least?
I'd personally vote for Bryce Young. I mean, here's the thing. They're both in somewhat similar situations. C.J. Stroud just happens to have
three great receivers.
I was going to say 3 great receivers.
2 top 10 picks, I
bet. 2 top 10 picks. That's exactly what I was going to say. And Garrett Wilson and Olave. Both are
and
super
Smith and
talented.
Jigba's been the best player there, I thought, last week, at least against Michigan State. I think he led the team in touchdowns.
Yeah. So C.J. Stroud's all talent in the world. You could say the same for Bryce Young, but I think Bryce Young's been putting up these historic weeks more often than C.J. Stroud is. That's my only take. I was high on both of them coming into the year. Both of them hit a little, beginning of the season slump, though.
Especially Stroud.
Yeah,
here's what I don't understand. Before last week, Bryce Young was the favorite.
Overwhelmingly.
Now, for some reason in sports books, or C.J. Stroud's the favorite now. It was Bryce Young. This week, yes, C.J. Stroud played out of his mind against Michigan State. They dropped above 50. However, Bryce Young also had the most passing yards in the game for Bama ever. Yeah, I think 539.
Which, if you look at the quarterbacks they've had, is ridiculous.
Exactly. I don't get why that makes everyone go from Young to Stroud when they both had great weeks.
When they both had historic weeks.
I would vote for Bryce Young. I just think Stroud at the beginning of the year was utterly awful.
Yeah, he really
stunk. You got to take that away. I think it's going to be Stroud, however. I think Stroud's going to beat Michigan this week and get himself as the front runner just with that win. I obviously want to be Matt Corral still. I think he's out of it. It's Young or Stroud.
Matt Corral's just so fun to watch.
It's Young or Stroud. Unless Young goes off and Stroud plays meh, I think Stroud gets in with the win against Michigan.
Yeah, I think, especially if it's a dominant win.
I think Heisman ballot should go out, by the way, not after the playoff, but after the championship games, because then if Bryce Young goes and beats Georgia, it's got to be him.
Exactly.
But they're going out this week. My prediction for it's actually going to be, I think it's going to be Stroud.
Yeah, I'm still standing with Bryce Young, but I think if they lose to Georgia, it kind of goes to Stroud. Yeah. Not by default, but I think Stroud would then take over 100%.
Yeah. Let's get into this Saturday. I want to talk about the biggest game. Michigan-Ohio State, every year, huge game, biggest rivalry in college football, arguably. Michigan's one loss. One loss. Ohio State, one loss. Winner of this goes in the Big Ten Championship and the playoff. But Ohio State's ranked 2, while Michigan's ranked 5. Ohio State's a heavy favorite for good reason. They're going to go in there and blow them out. Spread's 8.5. They're going to win by north of 14. Every year, Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State. At home, it's going to be embarrassing. Ohio State's going to cement themselves as the 2 in the playoff, and if Bama goes in and beats Georgia, maybe they could get to the 1. I don't think they will. They could. This is Ohio State's game to lose, and I don't see a world where Michigan wins this, and I don't want to.
So, here's my take on this. I'm a Michigan fan. I don't like Cade McNamara at all. I don't think that's a hot take. I think Michigan is one of the best defenses in the country. I think I'm willing to argue that with anyone. I think it's more a matter of Michigan's offense showing up, because Michigan's defense is consistent. They have Aiden Hutchinson. They have a couple other great guys on that defense. So, yeah, if they can find a way to shut down the absolute powerhouse of an offense Ohio State has, and
They can't score. They won't score.
that's my fear, is that they're going to need to legitimately shut down one of the best offenses in college football history
I don't think Michigan's going to score.
at all. Or like,
They'll score. They'll
Yeah,
obviously
obviously.
score 13-ish. But I think Ohio
it's a matter of what they hold Ohio
Ohio
State
State's
to.
defense is good. Talent-wise, they haven't been playing great. Last week, they finally did. They're going to turn it on, and Michigan has no offense. 2 to 3 turnovers for Michigan. Heard it here first. This is going to be, I think Ohio State wins by north of 14. I'll say it again. They're going to be in the playoff. Michigan, they'll make a good bowl game. They'll lose to, I think Michigan will lose to Ole Miss in some bowl game. Maybe they'll make the Rose Bowl. We'll see.
My take is with that. I like what you're saying, that like it's more about Ohio State or Ohio State's offense than it is about Michigan's, just because Ohio State's offense, you know what you're gonna do it. You know what you're gonna get with them.
Yeah.
But I have to say though, is if Michigan can find some way to shut down Ohio State's offense, then it's gonna be a punching match, and that's gonna be an all-time classic game.
I still think that's true, but I still think the most they could shut down Ohio State's offense is still 20 points. And I don't know if Michigan can score that.
I think the key to the game for Michigan, in my opinion, Hassan Haskins gonna need to be the workhorse. I want Cade McNamara throwing the ball, not as minimal as possible, but I don't want him throwing the ball, deciding the game.
That
on
works against bad teams. That's why they've won all these games. That works. Cade McNamara throws these little out routes that are 5 yards, and they run the ball all game. That's not going to work against Ohio State. They could shut it down.
Why not?
What do you mean, why not? So Ohio State's defense is much better. You saw against Michigan State, whose defense isn't great. They still only 32 is a good amount. You saw what Ohio State did to Michigan State.
That's true.
They beat, I think, 56-7. It was a blowout.
Yeah.
Michigan lost to that team, and it's
They
not
lost, but they lost due to Kenneth Walker having 5 touchdowns.
But it's the same Kenneth Walker. Ohio State can shut down the run game, and that's what they'll do to Michigan's run game, and Michigan won't be able to score with no run game. That's why I'm saying 3 turnovers out of their offense. Let's get to 2 other games. Oklahoma State. I think either of these teams still has a chance to the playoff. I think if
I think Oklahoma's just a mess.
I think Oklahoma State's going to win the game. I think they have a better defense, and I don't think Oklahoma can't shut them down. I think this is going to be not too high scoring. I think Oklahoma State's going to win decisively. I think there's a 1-loss Oklahoma State team there, with all these wins in the Big 12, their 1 loss is a close loss against Iowa State, who is a good team.
Yep.
Even though the Big 12's not good, I would put them in over Cincinnati. I don't know if the committee will, now that we see Cincinnati at 4, but if they win the Big 12, have this win over Oklahoma, have a win against Texas, and their only loss is close against Iowa State, I don't know if you could argue putting Cincinnati in it. I think it's arguable.
Yeah, it really just depends on how Oklahoma closes out the year. That's my take. I still am super high on Cincinnati. I have been since we went to the Notre Dame-Cincinnati game. And I decided as we were walking the stadium, I was a Cincinnati fan. Now I'm pretty diehard with them. I roll with Desmond Ridder. But yeah, I don't know. I think Oklahoma's talented. I just think they're a mess.
I think Oklahoma State's going to make the playoffs if they win out.
I think I agree. I think Oklahoma State
Really?
is a better team than Oklahoma. I just think Oklahoma's a mess right now.
But I
They
think
brought in a backup. Now
do you
they're
think
back
you would
with their
put in
starter.
Oklahoma State over Cincinnati? 1 loss, Big 12 champ.
I think that because
see why not.
because Cincinnati's in a pretty unknown conference situation, Oklahoma State could be a little favored on that, but I think Cincinnati would probably present more of a threat to some of the other teams.
I mean, because that's what everyone's saying. I think Oklahoma State would be a better team, I think, if they played. However, I don't know which one the committee would put in. They've ranked Cincy above them, but if Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, maybe it's different. We'll see. The big question is, would Bama get in? So first this week, does Auburn have a chance in the Iron Bowl?
No. Auburn's not very good. That's my take.
I agree. I think Bonix is fine. I think Bama's going to beat them.
He could have been so
We're
much
not going to see a
better.
K6.
He was so fun to watch in football.
But
in high school.
Do you think if Bama wins this game and then loses to Georgia, they get in with 2 losses?
I don't.
So I think we'll see Ohio State Big Ten champion. We'll see Georgia undefeated as the 1. We'll probably see Cincinnati then, with 2 spots. Would you put an undefeated Cincinnati, 1 loss Oklahoma State Big 12 champ, or 2 loss Bama?
Here's the thing. I think as good as the committee is at what they do, and people probably could laugh at me for saying this, they will always have a bias towards certain teams. Bama's in most years. Bama's historically in the past 10, 15 years, always found a way in, except for maybe a few years here and there.
Yeah.
But a 2-loss Bama team, I don't know if you can make the case for that. I really don't.
Here's what I would do. This isn't my prediction. If I was the committee, I'd put Oklahoma State at 3 and Bama at 4. I think
Over
Cincinnati has had a win against Notre Dame, and that's it. I don't see why you could put them in over Bama. I think, honestly, I'm very torn on the Bama thing. My main thing is I put Oklahoma State in over them. 2-loss Bama with a loss against number 1 Georgia. It all depends on the game. If they lose in overtime,
The
Bama.
A&M loss is going to kill them, though.
Yes, and there's been a lot of close games. If they lose to Georgia in a close game, maybe that. I'm really interested. I was getting down on college football. I think this is a bad year of college football.
Overall.
But I do think that this is going to be an interesting playoff. And what teams go in. However, I think it's going to be dominant if Cincinnati goes in there and gets beat. I think that's going to hurt out of Power 5 teams going forward.
Yeah.
I want to talk about college basketball real quick, just a quick 30-second thing. I think that the Big 12, Purdue's the overwhelming best team there. They're undefeated. They have overwhelming talent with Stefanovic, Jaden Ivey. They can score at all levels. I think Michigan's looked awful with those 2 losses.
Yeah, Michigan has been playing.
And I just think they're the best team in the Big 10. Right now, Michigan State has looked good too, but I think it's Purdue. That's all I wanted to mention before we get.
Didn't Michigan State lose to UConn yesterday, though?
Yeah. Michigan's. It's just been a mess with all these tournaments. I'm having trouble tracking Gonzaga. The overwhelming one. They blew out UCLA. They're gonna play Duke tonight.
I'm looking at Gonzaga right now as like just a team with ridiculous levels of talent. They have good guard play. They have Chet Holmgren, who's like legitimately a unicorn.
Yeah.
We can say that. And Drew Timme, who seems to be the greatest post scorer college basketball scene in over a decade for sure. They just have so much talent. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the win right now, but who do you think's going to be the number 1 overall pick tonight? They're playing Banchero or Chet Holmgren.
I think Chet. He just like my one fear of Chet's injury, obviously, because I see like his body most like Porzingis's, who's been playing well by the way, just for a quick NBA side track. But yeah, Chet's a unicorn. Like look at the guy. He's 7 feet tall. He plays like a guard. You've never seen anything like it. He plays like Kevin Durant, kind of.
Yeah, I think he could be the next Kevin Durant. I think he'll be the number 1 overall pick.
Absolutely. I think the sky's the limit for the kid.
Yeah, I agree. So thank you guys all for listening.
Yeah, thanks
before
so much.
We want to wish you guys all a happy Thanksgiving again.
Yeah.
Before we go, happy Thanksgiving on Skull Ball. I'm going to go hit it real quick.
Let's see it, Spence. Spence is lining up right now. See what we got. Nice shot. And Luke.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much.